We mentioned this conflict is the big focus at the United Nations today as well. The Security Council is meeting to discuss the escalation following a request from Iran. CBC's Chris Reyes is there.
Hi, Natasha. So that meeting just wrapped, lasted about 2.5 hours. We heard from all members of the Security Council. And really, Natasha, the optics was fascinating because arguably this forum is probably the least consequential of all of the negotiations happening at this moment on this conflict, but it is the most public. I mean, if you think about it, it's the only place right now at this moment where we're actually seeing diplomats from the countries involved coming together face to face. And it has been tense and it has been grim, starting with the Secretary General.
The world is watching with growing alarm. We are not drifting toward crisis. We are racing toward it. We are not witnessing isolated incidents. We are on course to potential chaos. The expansion of this conflict could ignite a fire that no one can control. We must not let that happen.
And Natasha, following those remarks, IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi gave a rundown of the status of Iran's nuclear facilities. Remember, they're still monitoring Iran's nuclear program 24/7, even though their inspectors are not on the ground. It's really quite something for him to be briefing the council with Iran and Israel present. Remember, it was their report that preceded Israel's attacks on Iran. In that report, the IAEA said that for the first time in 20 years, they weren't sure whether Iran was complying with their non-proliferation agreements. They also noted that their inspectors found some nuclear material that Iran couldn't explain. So that is the backdrop of this briefing. And in this briefing, he said a couple of notable things. One, that Iran's nuclear facilities have been degraded by Israeli attacks, but so far they haven't detected any radiation leaks in any of those facilities. But they are concerned about the Bushehr nuclear power plant in southern Iran. This plant has thousands of kilograms of nuclear material, including enriched uranium. This power plant is IAEA compliant, and it's used for nuclear energy production. And Grossi said that an attack on this plant could have a major radioactive release, as Chris Brown was talking about there as well. And Mr. Grossi almost begged the council to let the IAEA step in as a trusted middleman in negotiations. Hear his pitch.
The IAEA can guarantee through a watertight inspection system that nuclear weapons will not be developed in Iran. They can form the basis of a long-standing agreement that brings peace and avoids a nuclear crisis in the Middle East. This opportunity should not be missed.
All right. And before we heard from Israel, Iran, and the U.S., we heard from the Algerian ambassador, and that's significant because he represents the Arab group at the council. Ambassador Amar Benjama called the attacks on Iran unprovoked and unjustified. And he also noted that Mr. Grossi, despite the IAEA's resolution against Iran, also said that the IAEA didn't have any proof that Iran was moving towards a nuclear weapon. So this gives you, Natasha, a sense of the divide in this council between Israel and the U.S. and the rest of the members, who are much more tempered in how they describe this conflict and Iran's role in it.
You know, as you were playing that Grossi clip, Chris, it was so evident the degree of tension that must be in that room, because as you pointed out, this is perhaps the only place where a representative of Israel and a representative of Iran are sitting across from each other. And I understand they have had an exchange today. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Heated back-to-back speeches from Iran and Israel. The Iranian ambassador held up a poster of Iranian children killed in these Israeli strikes, called on the council to hold Israel accountable for the strikes. And then the Israeli ambassador fired back. I want you to listen to their two speeches back to back. We'll play it here.
Iran has never initiated any war, while Israel, as an occupying and terrorist regime, has a long and dark history of illegal use of force, violation of all legal international norms, assassination and nuclear secrecy that destabilized the entire region. The selective use of international law by certain members of this Council expose dangerous double standards that endanger international peace and security and undermine the credibility of this body.
How dare you ask the international community to protect you from the consequences of your own genocidal agenda? Have you no shame? For years, your supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, has publicly and repeatedly called for the destruction of Israel and the United States. In May 2024, he declared, and I quote, "The divine promise to eliminate the Zionist entity will be fulfilled." In May 2025, he said, and I quote, "The Zionist regime that is a lethal, dangerous, cancerous tumor should certainly be eradicated, and it will be." These statements are your regime's policies.
You know, Natasha, both ambassadors spoke pretty extensively, but I chose those two clips because those clips represent the deep divide between the two countries and the contrast in their narratives and the fact that even face to face in this forum, they're unwilling to acknowledge the other's narrative of what's happening on the ground. We also heard from the U.S. ambassador who delivered a few different messages in her short remarks. Ambassador Dorothy Shea said that it's not too late for Iran to do the right thing. That's the first thing that she said. That's likely a reference, Natasha, to this open door promise from President Trump to give it 2 weeks before deciding whether to join Israel militarily. And then she also reminded the Council that Iran has repeatedly threatened Israel and the U.S. And then she issued that same ultimatum that we've heard repeatedly from Trump, which is that the only way to move on from this conflict is to guarantee that the Iranian government will abandon their nuclear ambitions.
CBC's Chris Reyes at the United Nations in New York.